Hey Kurt, this is Coach Holtman. This is your October pitching video analysis. I'm going to start by just playing through the video or playing through your delivery in slow motion. Okay, so I like to break pitching mechanics down into different phases of delivery. Okay, these phases are hip load, hip lead, hip separation, release, and follow through. All right, I really like to focus on the first three because those have the most influence on what happens later in the delivery. Okay, so a lot of times one thing is a result of something that happened previous in our mechanics, and so if we focus on things that happen at the beginning of our delivery, it'll have a big impact on the things that have at the end. All right, so let's start with our first phase, which is hip load. All right, during hip load, I want to see your front leg track up towards your back shoulder. All right, the reason for this is it sets our hips up in a good position as we start to move down the mound. All right, now if you notice, as you lift, this front leg is going up towards this front shoulder. Okay, and because of that, you have a tendency to step out with your front leg instead of driving with your back leg. All right, so if we get this thing going on a trajectory back this way, it sets our hips up a little bit better to move down the mound. All right, second, when we get to the top of our leg lift, I want to see this that front hip slightly elevated. Okay, that'll help you really ride that backside and really drive with your back leg down the mound. All right, and then the last thing is the best setup to move down the mound is we want a little bit more extension in this backside. All right, and we'll see what happens here in a second because you have a little bit of position there. Okay, so when we get into hip load and as we start to move into hip lead, which is the second phase of the delivery, I like to draw a line up the backside, up that back leg, because I want to see how that thing interacts with, or how our back leg drives us down the mound. All right, so as we start to move down the mound, I want to see your hips go first. All right, now you're doing a decent job here, but I'd like to see a little bit more elevation in this front side. Okay, and that'll help. It'll be easier for you to get a little bit more elevation on that front hip if this front leg is going towards this back shoulder. All right, so something to keep in mind there. I know we've talked about that a little bit over the summer. Okay, so I want to see that hip go first while our head stays back, but I also want to see what's known as a knee pinch. Okay, our back knee has to move in this way in order to create a good angle with the ground to drive from. All right, we want to be able to put force into the ground going at an angle like this because that will help propel us down the mound towards the catcher. Okay, if we don't create that angle though with that back knee to where we can apply force that way, now we're applying force straight into the ground and we're not really using that back leg to move us down the mound, and instead our front leg is doing all the work. All right, and we'll see why that can be a problem here in a second. Okay, so what you'll notice is as you go down the mound, you are very quad dominant, meaning you're using the muscles in the front of your leg instead of your butt muscles, which are much more stronger and better hip extender. All right, so we're able to use our lower half much more effectively. We're able to use our glutes to rotate and drive down the mound, and things don't work quite as well when we use our quads. All right, and the reason I know that you're using your quads is because as you go down the mound, look how quickly you come up onto your toe. All right, what's happening is this back leg is driving this way, kind of towards the third baseline. All right, see how it's going down the third baseline there. Okay, and what happens as a result is that our direction with our lower half isn't very good. And so we have to compensate by taking our upper half and twisting back. See how we have this big tilt in our posture? All right, that big tilt is a result of your lower half going towards the third baseline. All right, you have to compensate with your upper half by going back this way in order to throw the ball straight down the mound. All right, what this can lead to is a loss of energy. It can lead to command issues, missing up a lot, and it can also lead to some arm health issues too. So that's something to keep in mind. So when we get all the way back to this point, we need to, first of all, get that back leg more extended, okay, more straight up and down, and we need to get our hips to come backwards so that way we can sit on this heel for as long as possible and drive using our glutes. All right, we want that back knee to drive straight down the mound towards our catcher. That'll help us use our glutes more effectively, help us rotate more effectively, help us be stronger, and get us into a better position as we move down the mound. All right. So that'll be a big thing for you, really focusing on your lateral drive. And if you check out the lateral drive drills on the app, it kind of explains a little bit more kind of the movement pattern that we're looking for and why it's more effective. All right. So as we get out into front foot strike, which is the third phase. All right, so see, even here you can see how much you're coming up onto your toe with this back foot. Okay. So now when we get into front foot strike, here's some things that I'm looking for. All right. First, because you come up onto that toe so quickly, all right, we're not really driving anymore down the mound once we get to this point because we can't. All right, look, you hardly even have your front toe on the rubber anymore, and your your back toe is hardly on the rubber. Your front foot hasn't landed, and so there's really no push off the mound anymore at this point. And so what happens is our body has to land, it has to balance itself, and so you quickly land on your front toe. All right, and your stride doesn't look like it's very long because the body because gravity's pulling you down. All right, it's almost like you're jumping from that back foot to your front foot when you do it that way. All right, so there's really no drive coming from our lower half. Okay, because of that, our hips don't really have time to open, and so you don't really have any hip to shoulder separation. Okay, when we land with this front foot, we want our front hip, or like our front belt buckle, pretty much facing towards the catcher with our shoulders still closed. All right, now your upper body's in a pretty good position, but your hips don't really have time to open. All right, so that's just something to think about, and that's all a result of how this back leg is driving down the mound. All right. Now, because of that, too, we're not really able to keep our weight back very well. So if I draw a line right up the center of your 2 feet, all right, your head should still be back behind this line slightly. Okay, that allows you to use that center of mass, use your trunk, and put more mass into the baseball. All right, that'll help you throw harder as well. All right, so a lot of things that we need to clean up with that lower half, which will really help, could potentially increase command and velocity. Okay, and then as we go into throwing, like I said, your upper half, your arm action, that stuff all looks pretty good. Your glove, the way your glove side works, I like all that. But it's our lower half we got to clean up. Okay, so now as we get into release, okay, I want you to notice your front leg. All right, when we release the baseball, we have to capture all of that energy from our back leg as we drive down the mound. All right, and then our front leg has to stop that energy and then redirect it up our trunk, out our hand. All right, the best way for that front leg to do it is for that front leg to stop that energy is to land braced, which you do, but then we want that thing to extend, and by extension I mean we want that thing to be straight as we get into release. All right, that shows that we're properly transferring that energy from our back leg to the front leg and then up our trunk and out our hand. All right, so check out the leg block drills, and that'll kind of give you some ideas on how to fix that and how to make it more effective for you. Okay, so those are the big things that I see. Kurt, the big things for you is cleaning up that lower half, and it'll help. It should have an impact on both command and velocity. So check out those lateral drive drills. Check out the lead leg block drills in the end. All right, and like always, if you have any questions or concerns, or confusion, or need help, kind of implementing some of these drills and things into your daily routine, don't hesitate to reach out to either Coach Glover or myself, and we can help you out. All right. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of work you can put in, over the next month, and what kind of improvements you can make. All right. Thank you.